Right, guys, welcome back to Mill RC. Today we're going to be starting a new series. We're going to go through the whole disassembly and assembly process on this beautiful SAITO FA170R3. So like I said, this is going to be a new series. I'm going to dismantle this engine completely, and I'll explain the reason why, assemble it, put it all together, and then we'll get some videos of this thing making some beautiful four-stroke radio engine sounds. But anyway, so the storyline with this engine is I bought it about 3 days ago. I ran it yesterday, and exteriorly it's in really good shape. You know, there's still, the cylinders aren't chipping any, the black paint, the gold rocker covers aren't chipping either. So exteriorly it seemed pretty good shape. However, when I ran it yesterday, there's definitely bad bearings in this thing. That's all I could hear was just the bearing noise. So the bearings, they need to be replaced. So as I thought I would show my process, you know, my methods or whatever, and kind of what I do to disassemble, especially a multi-cylinder engine like this. And yeah, if you guys like it, we will let me know, and I will continue to do more, because I really enjoy tinkering with these things and getting them back into nice working and running conditions. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and set up a overhead view, and we will get started on the disassembly on this beautiful SAITO FA170R3. All right, so as you can see, I've got my workbench cleared out here, ready to start the disassembly on this guy. But first, I want to mention is, like I said, the bearings do need replaced on this engine, and I have ordered the one front bearing that I think sits right in here. However, and I was looking up all the part numbers for the bearings, and it was used in different SAITO engines. And the rear one was from, or had the part name of the SAITO FT300. And I just so happen to have this bearing here from OS that uses, this bearing goes in an FT 240 to 300, and it's also the main crankshaft bearing. So my goal, at least for this part, is to dive down far enough to where I can read the numbers on the main bearing and see if they match this. That way, if I can use that, and if not, then I'll just order the right one that's supposed to go in there. But you know, if I have it already, why? I would just use this. So kind of a quick thing though I want to mention here is, you know, this is a multi-cylinder engine. It's got 3. What I do is I have these egg cartons here, and you can see I've got them labeled 3, 2, and 1 right here. And you know, that denotes which parts go in which egg carton, obviously. And then this middle one is just for main parts like the crankcase, the engine mounts, the carb, all sorts of stuff. So that's kind of my method for keeping parts. You see I write intake and exhaust, you know, for exhaust push rods, intake push rods, you know, all stuff you want to keep, you know, make sure you put back in the same order when we're assembling it, so we won't have any worries there. And before I start taking parts off, the way, or the cylinders are orientated when you're looking from behind the prop, it's 1, 3, 2, or 1, 2, 3, and this is when you're looking. This is you know, referencing behind the prop, the cylinder order, and this is verified by the manual that I have here, which there you can see there's the cylinder order, and from looking behind, and cylinder number 1 is the one with the whatever you call that, the sticker logo. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into disassembly. So the first thing I think we're gonna have to do is take off these motor mounts, and to do that we're gonna have to take off this throttle lever extension and this high-speed needle, which honestly I can probably screw this out and get to This is just an extension that almost everybody puts on. And that pulls right off, as you can see here. And it looks like they're, oh yeah, that's the low speed needle. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little flathead screw right there. So that's the low speed. So I thought I'd show that. This will go in the main parts bin. So now let's take these motor mounts off, which has quite a few screws. There's 6 of them. Let's see. I think these are going to be 2.5. Yep. Now I have these Turnigy, you know, screwdrivers with these, and these are great for just when you're moving fasteners around, but I highly recommend that you get yourself some very good L keys when you're doing these type engines, because these screws can be pretty tight sometimes, and you don't want to be destroying or wallering any of your screws out, so that wouldn't be good. And that one was pretty tight, so we'll go ahead and throw the L bend in here. Make sure you get a brand that fits really good inside those screw heads. And I maybe should have put some oil on all of these before I put my hand on it, but there, it snapped loose. And I'm going to be listening to the fasteners throughout the you know, when I break them loose, because if you hear that pronounced snapping sound, that is a good chance that this thing has never, or the mount has never been removed. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. There we have that snapping sound again. So all right, so as you saw there, I was taking the carb off, and it was just held on with a 1.5 millimeter set screw. No big deal, and it's kind of got an O-ring seal, which, looking at the O-ring, it does look in good shape, and it's still really nice and pliable, so that's good. I think that will be good to go. But I wanted to note that these screws are coming off pretty hard. It's been a reminder for me, and my biggest piece of advice for anybody who's going to try to do a 4-stroke, 2-stroke, doesn't matter, any sort of model engine repair themselves or disassembly, if you feel that these are coming off too hard, or you're starting to round off either the fastener or your tool, stop and do not continue. Put some penetrating oil or some, or heat the living tar out of those things. Get anything you can, because that's the worst thing you can do, in my opinion. I mean, it sets back one of these projects a lot, and then you have to spend so much time trying to get a stripped screw head out and all sorts of stuff. So that's probably my biggest hint or recommendation is, if you feel like you're starting to round off anything, just stop, hit it with some oil and some heat gun. It will help, and it will come out much easier without you destroying stuff. So anyway, I'll get these motor mounts off, and then we will continue. Okay, so I was able to loosen those screws. Ooh, that's a little far in, zoomed in. Anyway, I was able to loosen those motor mount screws without any of them stripping, so they were really tight, but they came out, and all 6 of them snapped off like, you know, they've never been taken off. So I'm liking what I'm seeing. So next thing I'm going to do is take out these glow plugs, and these shouldn't be tight. When I first got the engine, they were too tight, but I took them out just to check them out and make sure they still glowed or whatnot, and they all did, and I reinstalled them to the proper torque. I think that's one of the worst things you can do also to one of these glow engines, is way freaking over tight. The glow plug does not need to be super tight at all. I mean, you're not gaining any benefits from, you know, putting Hulk strength to it. And there's a lot of people who are cross-threading these cylinder head threads, and then when you sell it to someone else, and, you know, then they say, hey, you sold me a broken engine, you didn't tell me about it. So got to be careful out there in the used engine market world. So, but luckily these threads are in, glow plug threads are in perfect shape. So, and I think I'm going to replace all 3 of these glow plugs, to be honest with you, because they didn't read too well on the green meter. So on the nice starter. So next thing I think we're going to do is take off this back cover and, you know, intake manifolds, but I'm going to make sure almost when I'm taking off parts that cylinder number 1 is facing up like this. So let's see if these are going to be any harder to dismantle. And that one came out just fine, or loosened. So all right, so we are ready to pull off the cover now. One thing I did do, and this is what I like to do when I'm disassembling, is I will take photos of the orientation of these parts. Obviously, this is cylinder number 1. There's a scribe mark here, and I'll reference to the orientation where it says SAITO manufacturing, made in Japan, blah, 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 just to make sure we'll get parts mixed up. Here's another reference, though, as I don't know if I can show it, but right there, those 2 marks need to be lined up. So there's another clue to making sure this back plate is on correctly. So anyway, fun part. Now we get to open this thing up and see what this thing looks like inside. It's one of my favorite parts about taking apart these things. Make things a little bit more difficult. Of course, now this thing's going to be kind of hot. So, well, came apart now. So, let's see here. I might have to reference the video, but this is cylinder number 1, right? No, it is not. This is, so this intake here will go to number 1. And I'm going to review the footage of the parts flying, but I'm going to assume that these are, well, you know what? Yeah, I can reference to these, I think, where they went. So let's see here. Scribe mark is up this way. Judging by the parts laid, this is probably was cylinder number 2. All right, so I just reviewed the footage, and I actually did get the intake manifolds mixed up. I put the number 2 intake in bin number 3, and intake number 3, or yeah, intake for cylinder number 3 in 2. So I got them mixed up. So looks like it pays to get your build or disassemblies on video. So I was able to review that, and also by reviewing the footage, when I put the engine up close, I know there's not enough light, so I got a flashlight here, and I can show you. And yeah, that main bearing in there looks pretty rusty, as well as the crank just a little bit. But I mean, they've all looked like that when I've disassembled them. So, but yeah, that main bearing is definitely in need of replacement. But this is just cool. I mean, how can you? First time taking apart a radial for me, so this is kind of like super cool neatness, I guess. I don't know what to say, but you know, seeing inner working, or the con rods and all that stuff working in unison, it's really neat. So anyway, like I said, I was hoping I could read bearing numbers, but obviously with it rusted like that, I'm gonna have no idea what it's saying, so I won't be able to tell what main bearing I need until I get down further, most likely get this out of here